I am Suleiman Dabo. Join me for an in-depth analysis of various policy issues as they impact your life. I'll be talking to policy experts in various areas across the African continent. Expert analysis and more. Join me on Bege TV.
Hello and welcome to the African Public Square, wherever you are across the African continent, in the Gambia, and here in the United States. I am Suleiman Dabo. In today's program, I have two distinguished gentlemen in the persons of Mr. Cherno Jallow, who is the Justice of the Supreme Court of the Gambia, who also served as Attorney General of British Virgin Islands from 1999 to 2007. I also have Mr. Gayso, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Human Rights Development in Africa. Welcome, Mr. Sow, and welcome, Mr. Jallow, to the program. So just to start, please give us your impressions so far as this consultation that you are having with the people in the diaspora.
When we took the decision to embark on this consultation with the Gambian diaspora, we were looking to very lively engagements with our community of Gambians. And thus far, having conducted practically all but one within the United States here, I can tell you that it's been a very, very active engagement, and we've seen Gambians come out and contribute. We almost always have to, vie for time, and that's the level of activity and the level of active engagement that the process has been going through. So it's really been a very positive engagement, and I am truly glad that we undertook it. And Gambians in the diaspora have also expressed, satisfaction and appreciation of the fact that they were able to be given this platform so they could meet directly, face to face, with the commission members. So we are really grateful. It's been very great.
So, Mr. So, if I may continue on that, what has been the most concerning issue to Gambians as you listen to them express their opinions?
It's difficult to tell because, like we did in the Gambia, we also, in all the places we've had meetings so far, raised lots of issues. As we noted when we started today, we have a total of about 14 issues with different questions. From the executive to the legislature, to the judiciary, fundamental human rights, citizenship, etc., etc. So it will be difficult for me to say this is the most pressing. But one thing that is worthy of notice, all these issues were presented and we got feedback on all of them, I can say. So it's for us now to go back to make a sense of, what was said, so that in drafting the constitution we would have all those things considered. So like I said, broad issues, raised in all the places we've met. So I cannot, for example, say, most of the feedback we got was on the executive or feedback from fundamental rights. It depends, yeah.
Okay, so I know you've visited a lot of places, here included, here in Atlanta. Different people have different opinions, different ideas. So what's the process of having those ideas finally finding themselves in the Constitution?
I think the first point that needs to be made is that the Constitution is a framework and is designed to capture only the major issues that are of a constitutional law nature. And we do not expect that every opinion canvassed during these public consultations will necessarily find their way into the Constitution, because our experience thus far has been that quite a number of opinions have been expressed which really go to issues of either enforcement or issues that are addressed in statute, or maybe they are issues of policy. But again, the diversity of opinion for us is important, because it gives us the opportunity to know what Gambians are thinking, what their objectives are, what their aims, what their aspirations are, insofar as the development of the new constitution is concerned. So that diversity of opinion is actually a very good thing, especially in the context where the opinions are being expressed with reasons, and that helps us, to gauge exactly where people are coming from and what really, is strong, sufficiently strong, and represents values that really need to be built into the Constitution. So it's a process.
So, since the founding of the Gambia, and I'm sure some people have expressed this, that this is the third constitution that we are coming up with. The second one could understand that was a military coup that necessitated it. What was the basic reason behind this one that we are drafting now?
Okay, I think one thing we need to say, few years ago, we organized a stakeholders conference on constitutional matters and human rights. I think that was organized by the Ministry of Justice, my office, UNICEF, UNDP. And during the conference, we had a panel on, the Constitution. I remember the panel was actually chaired by the Lord Chief Justice. And the current vice chairperson of the commission was a member of that panel. So after, I think Ida Dramatu was on it. So after the presentations were made, I remember the Chief Justice moving a motion asking all those who were there, because we also had a lot of people from the diaspora, that we should there and then decide on whether we just needed to make adjustments to the 1997 Constitution, or we needed to have it reviewed, overhauled, and a new one drafted. And majority of those at the meeting resolved that instead of making adjustments to the current Constitution, we should go by what we're doing now, having it reviewed, and at the end of the day, drafting a new one. Because, people would tell you the current Constitution as it is has been amended more than 50 times. I think that and many other considerations might have informed the decision at the conference, to come up with a new constitution instead of fine-tuning what we have now. Yes.
So in that regard then, as far as you go along, or as you go with the review of the current constitution, are there parts that will finally find themselves again in the new constitution, or are you just reviewing it for review's sake?
I don't think anybody is reviewing the Constitution for review's sake, certainly. I think there is a purpose to it, and as Commissioner Gay so rightly pointed out, a Constitution having gone through numerous amendments, in fact, to the extent where, concerns were expressed as to which version represents the Constitution, the authentic Constitution. I think there is legitimacy for really engaging in a review process as the type we are engaging at the moment. Will everything in the new Constitution find its way into the new Constitution? That's a matter that is under review. That's precisely why we are engaged in this process. And a lot of the questions, but the overwhelming majority of the questions we put to Gambians, both at home and in the diaspora, relates to matters within the Constitution. And obviously, you would have witnessed diversity of opinion on those matters. So we will look at that diversity of opinion and make a determination as to which aspects of the current Constitution really need to remain, and if they need to remain, in what fashion. There are issues of drafting also involved in all of this. Even if something has to remain, obviously the drafting may necessarily need to change. So there are all those elements. But all in all, I will say that it's not everything that is in the current Constitution that is bad. I think we need to be very clear on that. But this is an opportunity whereby the people are involved in designing and developing their own Constitution with the hope, and I would add with the prayer, that this Constitution really will last for a very, very long time. So it's not subjected to the kind of torture, I would say, that we've seen the current Constitution go through with over 50 amendments. That's really not desirable in a proper democratic setting.
So let me take you back to Gambia a little bit. You had similar consultations with the Gambian people there in Gambia. somebody expressed the idea that most people in Gambia are not illiterate, they don't understand a constitution as it is written. Somebody have to explain it to them in the local languages that they understand. Do you have plans as you come to the end of this exercise to make sure that all those people who contributed one way or the other to the drafting of this new constitution really understand what is in it?
I think the chair can.
Yeah, our aim obviously is to ensure that we write a constitution that is simple as that can be. Obviously, there are certain technical aspects of the subject matter that need to remain technical because, part of what we do, we take judicial interpretations of certain subject matters into account, so we do not alter that. But yes, the aim is once we draft the new constitution, we will roll it out for public consultation so that the general public that participated in this process and those who did not have the opportunity to participate have a second go at the whole subject matter. In other words, we will publish the constitution and then invite public to review it and comment on it. And part of what we plan to do as the CRC within the country is to go back to the public and have that interface with them and let them know what is contained in the Constitution, what opinions effectively have made it into the Constitution, what opinions did not make it, and the reasons for both. So that's part of the process we are engaging. But again, I must emphasize the point that this is not a matter entirely for CRC alone as an institution. This is a matter for all Gambians. I think once the Constitution comes out, particularly when the final product is out, every Gambian has a civic responsibility of educating our own people. We need to educate each other on this, apart from the formal mechanism of civic education that various institutions will be engaged in, and it needs to be a continuing process.
All right, so let's change the topic a little bit. Just recently, a former junta member, Mr. Yankuba Toure, appeared before the TRRC to testify and give testimony to what he knows about what happened from 1994. He refused testimony, giving constitutional immunity as the reason why he's not. Not your legal opinion, but can you explain what is going on here?
Yes, I think it's important to say this is something we have looked at and we actually continue to look at it. In fact, at our level, at the CRC level, this is something we've raised and discussed even before the Toure issue came up before the TRRC. In fact, even before the Toure issue came out, we had already constituted, commissioned a paper, a research paper to look into the issue. So it's something we have talked about, like I said, way before anyone started talking about the immunity provisions in the Constitution, because you cannot amend provisions of the Constitution without looking into that. Like I said, we have discussed a long time ago, and we continue to look at it. But please allow me not to go to the extent of telling you what we've said. But it's something we're very mindful of, and we're definitely looking into. And like I said, it did not just start with the Toure issue. It was way before that. In fact, going back to many, many months ago. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So just again, before I go back to this current thing that we're doing, that's the exercise with the general Gambians in the diaspora. Again, there is another issue that has not been, or that's not very familiar with the Gambian court system, and that is the issue of rape. It is nothing. It is not something that people in the Gambia normally talk about. But right now, in the social media, there's this discussion going on. Some people have already come out to say, they've been raped by the ex-president. What do our laws say as far as rape is concerned?
Rape is a criminal offense under our laws quite clearly, and I think the fact that in the past people were not talking about it may be attributed to various reasons. One of them could be related to cultural norms and values and the kind of stigma that normally people would put to people who are involved in that kind of unfortunate events. But I think the fact that people are coming now and speaking openly about it is really testimony to our newfound democracy, that we have an open society, open government, where more and more we are recognizing the importance and value of people speaking their mind, and that certainly helps. The law is very clear on the subject matter. I don't think that is so much an issue, and there are systems and processes and certainly procedures for dealing with complaints regarding rape, and the process for prosecution through the judicial process.
So, after you have done all that you needed to do, that is the drafting of the Constitution, preparing a report, you submit it. Now your work is done. Do you have in your mandate any mechanism that you could use after you've done all that you've done to ensure that what people said, what they've expressed in terms of opinions and suggestions, are really the things that are going to remain in the Constitution?
If I can address that, I think we need to understand what the mandate of the CRC is. It is to draft a new constitution and prepare a report in relation to that constitution. Now, once we hand both documents to the president, then it becomes a matter for the executive to arrange for a bill to be prepared to go to the National Assembly for it to endorse the new constitution, and then obviously refer to a referendum for Gambians to vote on it. We, as the CRC, will remain in office under the current CRC Act until Parliament deals with that subject matter, because we will be available in the event the National Assembly members require our assistance, in answering questions relating to the draft constitution. Can we guarantee anything beyond that? I mean, absolutely nothing. We follow the mandate we are given. At the end of that process, we don't expect that we will arrogate to ourselves powers that the law hasn't given us. I think then it becomes a question of national dialogue and ensuring that the process is followed through to its logical conclusion. But at the end of it, and I keep telling people when they ask me, can you guarantee as the CRC that XYZ will happen, and I tell them I can't guarantee anything. What I can guarantee is that the CRC will carry out its mandate as required under the law. But quite clearly we are doing this in the context of the goodwill we have seen not only from Gambians but also from the executive, from the judiciary and from the legislature, and from quite a number of other stakeholders. Everybody is really geared up in this process, and everybody expects the right thing to be done. And we as the CRC, that is what is encouraging us, and we expect that the right thing will be done at the end of the day. The executive, the president appointed us on the basis of the trust and confidence he has in us. And that trust and confidence is one we are doing our best to discharge, to ensure that ultimately we present a constitution and a report that fairly represent the views and aspirations of the Gambian people. Beyond that, I think we should, work on the trajectory of optimism.
Thank you. One final question, Mr. Sow, before we let you guys go. Like I said, this is the third constitution that the country is going to have. But this is different in the sense that here you are in Atlanta, Georgia, having consultations with Gambians in the diaspora. Was this something that was in the act, or this is a decision that the commission made itself?
I mean, it's provided for in the act, as in the act talks about public consultations. For the diaspora, it says to the extent possible, which of course would depend on the availability of means. So what we did, framework provided for, but then we did our best to make sure we save cost. If you remember earlier, when the chairperson made his introductory remarks, he made it clear we divided into two teams, one Europe, the other in the US. So the team that went to Europe, they've already finalized their conclusions, and we should be finishing, I think, over the weekend. So it's not something we decided to do on our own. It's provided for in the law. Yes, yes.
I think that's a good clarification. People really want to know.
That's important. That certainly is important. It's not like we are out on our whims and fancies. We are guided in all our activities by what the Constitutional Review Commission Act provides. And we as community owners are very mindful of not only of the integrity of the process we are embarked upon, but also of our own integrity as professionals. And I think that is important. And we do not also want to create what might appear like a division between Gambians, those at home and those outside of the Gambia. It's important that we treat everybody fairly and give everybody the same platform to the extent feasible as provided for under the law. And that explains why we took the decision based on the law to visit the Gambians in the diaspora and seek their opinions in the same manner we sought opinions of Gambians at home.
Well, thank you so much, Chairman Mr. Cherno Jaro, I'm sorry, and Mr. Gay Sow.
We'll take this off.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. Mr. Sow was my
The uncles of the soul.
he was my lecturer at the university. So I'm just, thank you so much.